I want to break down Kamala Harris's Fox News interview with you because she absolutely aced it. Now, Fox News' Bret Baier went into the interview with the goal of rattling Kamala Harris, with the goal of getting sound bites, but she didn't let that happen. She actually specifically had a tactic to stop sound bites where she says, I'm in the middle of a point, let me finish, and she brute forces her way through the point, and it actually works. Bret Baier struggles at every corner, and with 20 days to go, we have no time to waste. Make sure you drop a like, make sure you're subscribed, and let's start off with this clip of Kamala Harris breaking down why Donald Trump is actually terrible on the border, and she sticks the landing perfectly. Watch.
Before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the...
Yes, ma'am. May I finish responding, please? But you have to let me finish,
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate,
and
they didn't bring up that bill.
I'm in the middle of responding to the point you're raising,
okay,
and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things, including to address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges, what we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings, what we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, to actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border, which is why I believe the Border Patrol agents supported the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, which is a scourge affecting people of every background, every geographic location in our country, killing people. It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done as the Attorney General, former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President, a couple of things.
Prosecuted trafficking of drugs, guns, and human beings. And Donald Trump, but let me just finish.
Six Democrats voted against that bill.
Learned about that bill and told them to kill it because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And in this election, this is rightly a discussion that the American people want to have. And what they want are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue.
I hear you.
All right, that was great, and there is a lot more where that came from. She hits every single point throughout the clip, and then she sticks the landing at the end by saying Donald Trump intentionally killed this bill. I've always wondered how effective it would be to look into the camera and say, Google it. Google Mitch McConnell admitting Trump killed the bill. Google Senator Lankford admitting Trump killed the bill. I think that that would be cool to see the increase in Googles. I think she did that with Project 2025 as well, but she has to walk a fine line here. She has to be firm and respectful at the same time, because women candidates in general have always had this stigma where if you're a little bit too firm, you come across as too harsh, but if you're not firm enough, people will walk all over you. I mean, it's hard to be a woman candidate, especially on the national stage, but as Kamala proves through this interview, she's walking that line perfectly. Right here, Kamala is talking about border security more and empathizing with the victims. I mean, there was a point in this clip where I thought she was winning over Bret Baier. She's talking, he's nodding his head, he's listening. He's listening intently. Watch this clip.
Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that. There is no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred. So that is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
More asylum judges to process people in the right way, more funding and resources overall, as she said, and I can't stress this enough. The main point here is that by killing the border bill months ago, Donald Trump effectively sabotaged any real progress or any real potential of progress along with Republicans that could be made, so they could just use this as a wedge issue. Let's finish this clip.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Brett.
Very well said. And somebody in the comments says, the posture says it all. She's sitting back, explaining in a calm, relaxed way, and he's leaning forward, trying to be more aggressive, but she is controlling the situation very well. She's been very presidential today, and I do want to say this is being injected into the homes of millions of Fox News viewers who want to see VP Harris crash and burn, and I can almost guarantee you, let's check Trump's Truth Social in real time. Is he melting down about this? He just tweeted an hour ago, "Make America Great Again." That's all he said. I can guarantee that later tonight he's going to be freaking out about Fox News. He's going to be calling to cancel their licensing. Here is Kamala Harris being asked about taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries. Look at the Fox News chyron right here. It says exclusive, chunk of change, position on taxpayer-funded gender transition surgery. So Kamala Harris knew she was going into the lion's den. VP Harris knew she would be asked questions like this, and let's see how VP Harris responds by pointing out that Trump uses this as a wedge issue. Listen.
He spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear in the voters because he actually has no plan in this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people.
I say this all the time when it comes to abortion. Trump has a new stance on the 6-week abortion ban every single day. When it comes to Ukraine, he says we'll see what happens. And of course, when it comes to healthcare, he only has concepts of a plan. But if you read the chyron again, position on taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries, Kamala HQ fact-checked it. Trump campaign has spent millions on anti-trans ads, but under Trump, the U.S. prisons still offer gender-affirming care because it would be inhumane to deny prisoners any form of medical care. The Trump administration's approach is notable in light of a campaign ad that slams VP Harris for supporting the same methods. And it's interesting because VP Harris filled out some sort of questionnaire about 5 or 6 years back that said, would you support all forms of health care for prisoners in need? And she said yes. Anybody would say yes, but under all forms of health care, this falls under that umbrella. Here's another clip of Brett Baer trying to press VP Harris, but Kamala Harris says, I'm sorry, but with all due respect, that clip is not what he was saying. Watch.
If he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States, why is that happening?
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
it's not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a cakewalk.
So are they misguided, the 50%?
Listen,
are they stupid? What is
God,
it?
I would never say that about the American people. And in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish the American people. He's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within, talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
We asked that question to the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So,
Brett, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
He was asked about that specific...
No, that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and respect to you,
that was the question that we asked him.
You didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has repeated it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it. And this is what is at stake, which is why you have someone like the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying what Mark Milley has said about Donald Trump being a threat to the United States of America.
He's quoted in the Bob Woodward book that way, yes.
That was a perfectly commanding response from VP Harris. I mean, I'm seriously impressed at how she pushed back in that situation, especially when Bret Baier was going for cheap gotchas. I mean, again, VP Harris is walking this tightrope where she has to be respectful but commanding and firm at the same time, especially when walking into the Lion's Den, and she's doing it perfectly. Bret Baier goes for a few gotchas. He tries to bait VP Harris into saying that MAGA supporters are stupid or dumb, and I love how genuine her response is. I haven't heard a response this genuine in a while.
50%? Are they stupid? What is
God,
it?
I would never say that about the American people. And
that is how a president is supposed to respond. I would never say that about the American people. Then she pivots and shows how Trump is the one who demeans American people repeatedly demeans them. And also, there are so many clips of Donald Trump calling Democrats the enemy from within, calling Democrats much worse, saying Kamala Harris is a communist Marxist who just turned black and is a fake who lied about her entire life. Bret Baier conveniently shows this one clip of Donald Trump defending himself in a sloppy way and thinks this is a fair clip. There are so many clips of Donald Trump saying the enemy from within, and VP Harris calls him out in a very respectful way. She says, respectfully, that is not the clip you played. Watch.
Criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it. And this is what is at stake, which is why you have someone like the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying what Mark Milley has said about Donald Trump being a threat.
Oh my God, he looks like a little boy in trouble. He is like, oh my God. He is intimidated by VP Harris, maybe even more intimidated than Donald Trump himself on the debate stage, who couldn't even look VP Harris in the face. She absolutely cooked Bret when he tried to trap her in multiple gotcha moments, which is great. Now watch VP Harris responding to Bret Baier's fake concerns about Biden's mental acuity. She cooks him even more.
No concerns raised?
Brett, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And Donald Trump
but
is.
you talked about it.
And Donald Trump
after George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump, which is why the people who know him best, including leaders of our national security community, have all spoken out. Even people who worked for him in the Oval Office, worked with him in the Situation Room, and have said he is unfit and dangerous and should never be president of the United States again, including his former vice president, which is why the job was open for him to choose another running mate. So that is a fact. That is a fact.
Now, the reason why Bret Baier is wasting valuable interview time with VP Harris asking about a candidate that's not even on the ballot, President Biden, is because he wants this to be a scandal so bad. Fox News wants this to be a scandal so bad, so they're trying to manufacture it. Because think about it. If you have X amount of time, let's say 20, 30 minutes with a presidential candidate from the opposing party, if you got 20 minutes with Donald Trump, why would you ask him about a candidate that's not even on the ballot? It's because Bret Baier is going for cheap gotcha interviews, trying to manufacture controversy. And again, the body language says it all. Look at the body language throughout these two clips right here. VP Harris is pretty relaxed. She's confident. Bret Baier is leaning forward, and he seems to be a little bit defeated. None of the gotcha tricks are working. He'll probably get yelled at behind the scenes after. There's probably ketchup on the wall at Mar-a-Lago, and Donald Trump is now posting on Truth Social. He just posted a random ad, and again said, "Make America Great Again." Kamala wouldn't change a thing. Let's watch this clip now. Bret Baier tries to pull up statistics, and Kamala Harris calls him out.
Packed where American soldiers suffered traumatic brain injuries and Donald Trump dismissed them as headaches, not to mention how Donald Trump has treated and talked about America's military and military service people, calling them suckers and losers, has diminished the significance.
We're talking over each other. I apologize.
I would like that we would have a conversation that is grounded in full assessment of the facts, which includes, I think this interview is supposed to be about the choices that your viewers should be presented about this election, and the contrast is important.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, she brings up a good point here. She's saying essentially that we're playing on their ground right now. Bret Baier is asking her about things that are so far removed from reality that he might as well ask her about Haitians eating cat's necks, which is a total conspiracy theory. But he's asking Donald Trump MAGA-framed questions through the lens of a MAGA sycophant, and she said, can we talk about things grounded in reality if I'm going to be here? And here is Baier saying, I hope you got to say what you wanted about Trump. Listen to Kamala Harris's snappy response.
And Madam Vice President, they're wrapping me very hard here. I hope you got to say what you wanted to say about Donald Trump. There are a lot of things
There's more to say. I have much more to say.
There are a lot of things that...
She rolled her eyes and said, I have much more to say, honestly. You can see her rolling her eyes over here. You know Bret Baier is low-key thinking, wow, she is a lot easier to talk to than Donald Trump, because she at least attempts to have a conversation, attempts to ground the conversation in reality. Donald Trump constantly derails at every single turn. I mean, we saw that in Chicago yesterday. He got very adversarial very quickly. I want to show you a few tweets that are popping up. Jamie Harrison just said, I am so proud of our MVP, at Kamala Harris. She's been showing the American people that she has the strength of conviction and the judgment to lead this nation. Bottom line, she ain't taking the bullshit. I can hear Jamie Harrison saying that. Brett Micella said, Kamala Harris was absolutely masterful in this interview. Baier tried to not let her get a word in, engaged in some serious gaslighting and rewriting of history, and VP Harris still absolutely crushed it. Again, I love this clip where she says, Brett, I'm sorry, but with all due respect, that's not the clip that you showed, because he did try to bait her. Let's hear what Brian Stelter had to say.
Exactly. I totally agree, Ashley. I think this strategy from Harris was a Google strategy. She wanted Fox viewers to start to Google some of the things she was saying, because some of the comments she was making in this interview are foreign to the Fox audience. For example, General Mark Milley saying Trump is a fascist to the core. That's barely been covered on Fox News. So she was able to get some of those talking points in. This was the most adversarial interview Kamala Harris has probably ever done. Instead of getting to debate Trump again, she got to debate Bret Baier. And a lot of viewers are going to come away saying, wow, she's willing to do that. That's a sign of toughness.
Not only is she willing to do it, but she did great. And Brian Stelter stole my talking point from earlier when I said she should look at the camera and say, Google this. He literally stole that straight from our show. He also points out something that I pointed out. This is the most adversarial interview she's ever done. She walked into the lion's den knowing that she had to walk a tightrope with Fox News viewers, and she did it. She debated Bret Baier in a successful manner. Ron Filipkowski said, after 2,682 hours of Trump making threats to elected officials, entertainers, prosecutors, judges, candidates, journalists, other Republicans, on, Bret Baier cherry picks the 10 seconds that Trump sounded halfway sane. Nice work, fair and balanced hackery. And he didn't even sound sane in that clip. I mean, Bret Baier cherry picks that, and it's still a clip of Donald Trump doing a half-assed defense. But either way, if you enjoyed this video, if you appreciate me boosting Kamala Harris, our pro-democracy candidate, make sure you drop a like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you boost this video. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.